Hi, this is Steve at Office365Mon, and in today's video we're going to talk about the Distributed Probes and Diagnostics feature of Office365Mon. So to begin, we'll go up here to the Configure menu and we'll go into Office 365 Distributed Probes. The Distributed Probes and Diagnostics feature are designed to provide a couple of features for you. First is that they allow you to run a set of health probes from all of the different geographic locations where you have users. So you can choose where you want to run it from. It's a download that you install as a Windows service, and you can install it in as many different locations as you choose to. And the reason why this feature first came about is that there were customers that had users in a variety of different geographic locations, for example, the US and Europe. And they would say, our users in the US, their performance is fine, but maybe in the UK, performance is not doing well. How do we figure out, why that is, or when the performance is bad in one location or another? And that's how the distributed probes and diagnostics feature came about. So the first and most important thing to understand is that it requires, first and foremost, that you configure monitoring for your site and mailbox in your subscriptions in Office 365Mon and the website itself. So you need to start out here and go into configure Office 365Mon and make sure that you already have monitoring set up and configured for SharePoint site and mailbox before you go to the distributed probes part of it. Because what it's going to do, the distributed probes are actually going to work in conjunction with the monitoring that you've already set up. So the distributed probe service, as it's running on all of the different computers where you install it, it's going to reach out to the Office 365Mon cloud service to figure out what it is it's supposed to be monitoring. And it will use that information to go ahead and issue health probes itself from the different locations where it's installed. That allows you to have health probes issued both from the cloud, which our service does for you, and then as well as any of the different geographic locations where it's running. So one of the things that it also does is the diagnostics piece of this. So when it runs a health probe, if it's not able to complete a health probe successfully, it'll run a set of diagnostics to try and understand if it's an issue with the local network infrastructure or if it's an issue with Office 365. So it will check things like the local network cards to make sure they're working. It'll check the local DNS to make sure it can reach it and it's up and running. It will check the local DNS to see how it's resolving names, to see what IP addresses it's resolving the Office 365 names to, so you know if DNS has gotten misconfigured in some way. It will check the proxy server to make sure it can reach that, because if it can't reach that, then it can't get out to the internet. And then it will select, it'll try connecting to one non-Office 365 site to see if it can reach it. And the reason why it does that is if Office 365 is down, then we want to check a non-Office 365 site. So again, it helps us figure out, is it, a local network issue or Office 365 itself. At each step of the way, when it's running those diagnostics, if it's unable to complete it successfully, for example, if it can't reach the DNS server, then it will log that to the local event log. And so you'll know if there are issues with your local network stack by just looking in the event log. And you can also set up your own monitoring on the event log where these machines are running and get your own notifications when it logs something to the event log indicating there's a problem with the local network issue. This is also important when should you need to call Microsoft support because you think you're having an Office 365 issue. This is one of the first things they'll ask you to do, is to go through this process to figure out, is it a local network issue or Office 365. So we'll go ahead and in this case, what we would do is we would click here to download the installation for the tool. Once it's down, you would go ahead and run it. We'll go ahead and run the configuration part of this. So you right click on it and say run as administrator. You have to be logged on to the local computer as someone that is a local administrator, because you have to have rights to start and stop the service. The subscription ID is for the subscription that we're monitoring for you, and the access code, and you get that right down here in the access code section. So we show you your subscription ID here, and then you say get a new access code. We'll do it right now, and then you'll see you get a new access code right here, and then you can just copy this and you can paste it into the access code section right here. Here's where you enter a public site. Again, would be a non-Office 365 site that will respond to a ping request. That's how we check to see if the public site is available. The location, we'll go ahead and click on this. Location, you can just type in a zip code or any part of an address and see if we can find it for you. And the idea is that you want to type in the location where this distributed probe has been installed at. And the reason why we do that is so that we can create a set of geographic reports for you as well. So you can see via the reports all of the different locations where you have installed the distributed probe agent, and you can see what your performance and availability is like across those different locations. So you can try and understand better if you're having performance or availability issues from just specific areas or regions within your organization. So that's really all you need to do to get it configured. The one other thing that we do is we have this warn me when it takes more than X number of seconds to ping a resource. And really what this is saying is, in this case, if it takes more than 30 seconds to complete a health probe, then send me a notification. And so we'll do a couple things in this case. If it takes more than 30 seconds to complete a health probe from this location, then we'll log that to the local event log. If we have internet connectivity, then we'll also send you a notification, a standard Office 365Mon notification. So that means emails, text messages, and webhook if you have that configured. So that gives you a way to find out in any different location, you can set a different notification value. So you can find out on any of them at any time if their performance is taking longer than you would like. So you just fill out all that information, click the save button. It'll prompt you to enter your username and password for Office 365. So we'll go ahead and we'll enter that now. And then it's going to go ahead, and when we do that, it's actually connecting back to the Office 365Mon cloud service to get that configuration information, and then it's saving the results and getting the information it needs to go out and start running some health probes. The other thing that you can do up here as well is that these distributed probes and diagnostics, there could be things that cause them to stop running. For example, because we have to connect to the Office 365Mon cloud service to get that configuration information, it requires that we have a valid access token to do that. When we just signed in just now, you saw me do that. That gives us an access token that's good for approximately 90 days. After 90 days, that expires. So you have to come back every 90 days and go through this same process again of right-clicking on here, say run as administrator, just click save, and type in your username and password. And that will allow us to keep connecting to it. But if you forget to do that, or if your password expires, or maybe the machine goes down, or it's been patched and the service doesn't start up, any of those things that might cause it to stop running, you can go ahead and you can set a threshold here and say, in this case, if this if these distributed probe and diagnostics agents don't check in within 120 minutes, then again, go ahead and send me a notification. So email, text, and webhook. So that's going to allow you to stay on top of all the locations where you have these distributed probes running. So once we've got this all configured, you can see it's pretty easy to get up and running. I mean, again, it will only take you a couple of minutes or so to download, install, and configure it. Then it's going to start logging the health probes that it's running. And again, if the internet is up, it will do things like if it detects an outage at whatever location it's running from, it will send you a notification about that. If it takes, too long to run a query, like a health probe, like I showed in when I was running mine, I had it configured to notify after 30 seconds. It will send you a notification for that kind of thing as well. But then if we go back over here, we'll start out in the basic reports. Like I mentioned earlier, it gives you the capability to get geographical performance data. So like we can look at here in the basic reports, the geo service performance. This is showing the performance for these distributed probes that have been installed by all Office 365 Mon customers. So you can see we've had customers install these agents all across the world. So if you're running, for example, up here in Europe and you want to see what your performance is like relative to other Office 365 customers in this geography, then you can look, if you hover over these individual push pins, you can see how long it's taking them on average to have their health probes execute. And the darker the color, the stronger the color. In this case, this has some green and some yellow, so it's a little stronger. So we can see it's taking them a little bit longer. It says 4.25 seconds versus the color down here, which is fairly light. And you'll see it's only 1.6 seconds. So that's a good way to sort of compare the performance of these various probes and the different geographies across the world. And again, you can compare how you're doing to everyone else. If everyone else is running twice as fast or considerably faster, then you may want to look at your local network infrastructure to figure out if maybe you have problems in there. There's a lot more reports in the advanced reports for the distributed probes. So for example, we can go down here and actually, if we click on geo availability, actually geo performance here, this is going to show us the performance for all of the agents just for our specific tenant. So we'll remove the data labels here so it's a little easier to see. And in this case, we can see the bigger the circle, that means the longer it's taking to execute those health probes. So for the health probes that we have in outside the London area right now, it's saying it's taking on average 1.95 seconds, but down here near Portugal, it's saying it's 1.67 seconds. So again, you can see the bigger the circle, the longer it takes. Here's another good example. Out here, it's taking 3.18 seconds in West Virginia. But then over here it's taking 0.6 seconds in Arizona. So again, it's just a quick view of what your performance is like across your organization. We can also see what the availability is like. So if you've had areas where there have been outages, you can see what the outages are like. And again, the bigger the circle, that means the lower the availability. So they've had more outages. And so again, another way for you to compare availability across all the geographic regions where you have users. In addition to that, if you just want to see what's been going on lately in terms of the latest performance of these various distributed probe agents, you can look in here. In this case, we have 3 agents running today, and so we can see what the performance is like for all of them. We can see they're all running pretty quickly. The longest one is taking about a second and a half to run health probes. And then down over the course of time, we can look at the performance across these different agents that we have and see again what the performance is like in the different areas where we have users, where we've installed these distributed probe agents. Same thing down here with outages. Here's just another view of what the outages are by the different agents that we have. And then the performance here, we can compare them side by side as well as opposed to a stacked chart. As well, on all of these distributed probe agents, you can also drill into it further. If you say, hey, I want to know what it was like back in January, and just for SharePoint, I don't care about Exchange. I think our SharePoint performance was slow in January. You can apply the filter, and then you can see what the performance was like just for that particular point in time. And then finally, the last report that's pretty useful is the remote agents report. So this shows you all of the remote agents that you have installed for your particular tenant. You can see the last time each one of them executed a probe. You can see the last time each one of them retrieved the configuration information. And again, those distributed probes will try and retrieve that information about once an hour. So you can look here, and if you, again, see it hasn't retrieved it in a while, then you know, hey, maybe something's going on with that agent. Maybe the computer is down, maybe it's in the middle of running a patch or whatever. The other thing that's useful as well is that, again, as I mentioned earlier, you have to have a valid access token to connect to the Office 365 Mon cloud service to get this configuration information. And so when you enter your credentials, we keep track of when that occurred, and we have the rough time when we expect that token will expire. And again, when it's getting close, you just go back, you run that configuration utility again, and just click the Save button. You don't need to change anything else. Just click the Save button, and you'll enter your credentials again, and that will update the access token. So that's a quick run through the Distributed Probes and Diagnostics feature.